Check me out.
Yeah. Hey, podcast listening people. How are you today, huh? Really appreciate you listening in. If you don't know already, my name's Connor Doobie, and I am your host each and every single episode for the Mile High Mentors podcast. And I'm grateful. Really appreciate you listening, tuning in. If you like the podcast, if you find it valuable, please do us this small favor. Leave a review, really helps with our rankings, and also subscribe. We're on all the top podcast platforms out there. Your feedback is great. Your subscribes are an awesome sign that you enjoy, and the feedback really helps us to continue making this a great platform for you. Great show for you. And I have a really, really interesting show for you today. Controversial show, actually. Of course, anytime you're talking politics, things are going to get a little controversial. And so that's why I'm grateful I was able to bring in Alejandro Flores into the Mile High Mentors podcast today and have him share his story and insight and expertise around undocumented immigrants and DACA recipients launching businesses, especially focused around here in Colorado. And we talked a lot about immigration, and it's a challenging topic, right? It's why it's so controversial right now. I mean, current state of politics is on this quite a bit. But Alejandro, he's a political program director for America Votes Colorado, self-taught entrepreneur. He's actually a multi-time business owner, which is really great. He sells sunglasses, Unum Sunglasses, and he is also in another business venture called Stokes Poke. So it's actually a food truck with fresh fish. But we got to talk about, we got to dive into that. And I'm somewhat politically keen and educated, but still massively ignorant to a lot of immigration related topics. And I know a lot of people, there's a lot of information out there. So being able to hear this story was really great. And I'm going to stop blabbing about it. I can't wait for you guys to listen in. Before we get there, very quick, if you're interested in partnering up with the show, collaborating in one way or another, something we're always open to, always interested in. And if you want to do that, you want to sponsor this show even, shoot us an email, milehighmentors@gmail.com. You can also just send us a message on social media, wherever you find us, Mile High Mentors. We're on all the major platforms. Use Instagram quite a bit, but you can also email us and milehighmentors@gmail.com. And those of you that have emailed us so far, appreciate it. We love to hear from you, and we've gotten to do some really great local collaborations just from you reaching out to us and taking that step. So really appreciate you. And so without further ado, please give it up for Alejandro Flores-Munoz. I'm so sorry if I butchered that, brother. Give it up for Alejandro. We're live. Appreciate it, man. I'm very glad we got to do this. Actually, I got to give you a shout out because do you know how many people contact me from Instagram, from Facebook, on LinkedIn, and they're like, hey man, how do I get on your podcast? You know, and they just send me messages or like, oh, I'd love to be on your podcast. You looked at my page and scheduled on my calendar, which is right there on my page, and took the action. So I know it's minor, but I got to give you shouts to that because I can't tell you how many people don't take the step to do that.
Definitely. No. And I think I don't know if you remember when I talked to you on the phone, I was like your accessibility to be able to hear people out or just to be reachable was so easy because you're not the first person that I reached out to, right? So like this message that I have is a message that is going to be important for a lot of folks, a lot of people in my community. And so I've been reaching out to a lot of people. Your access was the easiest one, where I was just like, oh, I can just schedule a phone call with him, and then I can speak and explain to you the reasoning behind why I would have wanted to come out on your podcast, which I think the translation gets lost sometimes in messages, because as you said before, like sometimes passion and can be heard through voice, and you're able to explain that a lot clearer. And I'm sure that you were able to hear my passion when I was talking about this important issue about immigration, and specifically dealing with people like myself who are currently in DACA. And so that's sometimes easy to write, but when you're able to connect with someone,
right, let
them know, that just carries a lot further.
Right. Well, at a high level, it's just the fact that you took a lot of podcast episodes we've done here have, been on various different topics, but a lot of it is, you want to make something happen. You have a message to get out there. It's about taking action on it and taking a step. And so kudos to you for doing that. And yeah, I am accessible. And so then that's part of the reason why I made this podcast local and Colorado based, is so after we wrap up here, somebody who listens to this, who resonates with your message, can say, hey, dude, I want to get coffee. I want to support you and get behind you on this. And so it's all about community, man. Whether we agree, disagree on certain topics, I'm here to help you get that message out here. And I'm excited to get into it. As a way to get started, first off, what's your favorite part about Colorado?
I honestly love that I'm able to witness the seasons change. That's one of the things that I love. Now that I own a food truck and a poke truck, favorite season has to be summer. I also have a sunglass line, so summer has always been my thing, and Colorado definitely offers a nice summer. But I also love that change of season that you can feel it.
And you're from where originally?
I was born in Guadalajara, Mexico, and then I was brought to the United States when I was 7 years old. I like to always say, through no fault of my own. I couldn't have told my mom at 7 years old, Mom, do not take us to the United States because we are going to face discrimination. We're going to face oppression. We're going to face barriers. I couldn't say that at 7 years old, right? My little brother was 3 years old. He couldn't have told my mom that we shouldn't do this. However, my mom, when she was 28 years old, decided that she wanted to give a better life to me and my younger brother. And so she took the risk of traveling from Mexico to the United States. And because of that bold move my mom made, what was it, like 25 years ago? I don't even know. I'm pretty bad at math. But like that move that she made gave me a better life. And I know that it has done that for so many people, other people who have taken the same route. So we ended up in California with family members, Southern California. So I grew up all my life in Santana, Orange County, California, until I was 25 years old. At 25, I took a gig to work in Boston, doing a campaign management. And so in Boston, I was there for a little bit and had the opportunity to travel to a bunch of different states through the work that I was doing. One of those states was Colorado. In 2016, I had a project here in Colorado where I was managing a signature gathering campaign for a ballot initiative, which we were able to collect over 170,000 signatures. And then my gig continued here, and I worked on a separate campaign, knocking on doors, and decided to stay here. I decided to leave Boston and move here to Denver because the quality of life here is just much more accessible, and you can live it a little bit different than than compared to the East Coast.
And we're nicer than the people in Boston, right?
Yes, I definitely.
A little friendlier. Maybe not nicer, but we sound nicer just because we have that Midwest.
I made a mistake of rocking a Yankees hat once. And I couldn't figure out why people were like staring at me in a really bad way until I got home and looked at myself in the mirror and saw that I was wearing a Yankees hat. But I love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad. I'm so grateful you reached out to me the other day because it's so timely. This topic is so massively timely, and I'm politically slightly well versed, but I'm still massively ignorant, and I know that there's plenty of others out there, and not ignorant in a negative way, like just lacking information on this. And hearing your perspective, also you're an entrepreneur, you're a multi-time entrepreneur, and so the immigration topic is it's controversial, and I hope that we can really open up the dialogue here. And I mean, the best way to start with something is local, right? I think you found that you found that niche here in Colorado, which is great. So locally, well, let's take a step back. You had family that were already here in the States that were migrated legally or illegally when your mother decided to take you and your brother over.
I think it's more of like how migration works. We have to, if you want to take it back, let's take it way back, right? How migration and how land is, right? So like migration is a normal process for people. So like my people were in California before I even went to California, right? Like there's this saying that I like to always repeat. I didn't cross the border crossed me. Like we, in terms of migrating, it was to better our lives because we knew that here in this country, we can definitely attain that. And I'm a living proof of that. Like I am right now a director for a political organization. I own a food truck and a sunglass company. I am continuing to just devote my time and speak my mind on issues that are important for me and for my community. So, that is one of the reasons why I think my mom definitely wanted to bring us here, and I'm glad that she took that route, regardless of what the immigration dialogue is at the moment. The fact of the matter is that there are hundreds of thousands of people in this country right now who are contributing to everyday life, whether that be through providing services, the work that they're doing, in just many different aspects. They're contributing to society, and yet there is no access towards legal immigration. And so I think for me, it's...
Pause on that real quick. What do you mean no access to legal? Let's allow me to play devil's advocate, because that's what I'm going to do that in this case, because I think that's really important. So allow me to play devil's advocate. Currently, there's borders, right? So you had family that were here that did not migrate legally, but there is a system, broken system or not, there is a system to migrate legally into the U.S. Is that incorrect?
That is correct. However, there is a backlog that does not allow you to migrate to this country. It is a lot easier for an European immigrant or a Canadian immigrant to do it legally through that venue, as you're mentioning, than it is someone from Latin America. I can guess why that is, right? And I'll tell you, the color of my skin is a lot darker than your color of your skin, right? So like there are a lot of systematic...
Hey man, just because I haven't tanned in a while, like...
I mean, come on.
You gotta go after me like that.
The blizzard yesterday didn't allow us to go tan, but...
I feel personally attacked right now.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
No, so I think that there are a lot of barriers that are put into place for immigrants, especially the ones who are, trying to migrate here. And at the end of the day, you have to remember the reason why my family chose to come to this country was, and if there was a system to do it efficiently and expedient, it would have happened. There is no such thing. Like, people have to wait 15, 20 years sometimes. And some folks wait that time, but some folks don't have the option of waiting 6 months, 5 months. Like, their next meal, you get hungry tonight, right? You can't wait. And so at times there are decisions, hard decisions that have to be made by immigrants. And once we're in this country, we continue to make those hard decisions, but we make sure that we are contributing, because we understand that we're in a land that doesn't consider us as people sometimes. And so we have to work so much harder and contribute so much more, so that when there is a line, that we can get behind it. Right now in this country, there are really limited, people say, get in line. Like, well, show me the line. Like, tell me where the line is and I'll get behind it. Really, there is no line. Right now, the only reason why I have work permit in this country is because of President Barack Obama and the executive action that he did in 2012, which allowed people like myself, who were brought to this country without no fault of their own, and they meet requirements. Like, if you were 16 years of age or younger, there's just certain requirements that you meet, that we are now allowed to work legally in this country. And so, that's the conversation that I want to have. I want to have a conversation of, how do we eliminate some of these barriers that are put in place for people who are trying to contribute to this country?
So just like in your own personal opinion, what is the biggest missing gap? Is it more the process of migrating legally from South American countries? Because you had mentioned it's more you can come in through Canada and migrate legally to the U.S. easier than if you're coming from South America, right? That's an accurate statement.
Right. Well, what I'm trying to say is that because the color of our skin, it is harder, and the systems are harder.
Because the systems are racist, or the systems are set up in a bad way to migrate South Americans versus Canadians?
The systems have been intentionally designed to keep people away that look like me, in my opinion. And so, yeah. So, I think that's where we stand right now.
Is there something that's actually in place that makes it harder for you to get in line to migrate legally versus a Canadian?
There are various things that I'm sure that can be applied to that. I didn't do it that way, so I wouldn't be able to answer and really tell you what that is. However, I just know that there are, when people say so there's a lot of things that apply to that. So getting in line means that you have to pay fees, means that you have to do a certain process that needs to be done. And
right.
Remember when I said it earlier, when people are trying to migrate here, they're migrating because they're in need. They're in need to making sure that they're economically safe, that they're safe from criminal prosecution, from criminal extortion. And so a lot of times that process is just not attainable, like it is for some other countries, because you do have those kind of barriers on top of you. But earlier you asked what is it that we're lacking? Is it the systems? One of the things that I know that we're lacking is political courage. Political courage to address the situations. If there are big lines and it's preventing people from applying to come in the legal way, then elected officials and people in charge need to have the political willingness to be able to pass laws, to be able to create systems that will eliminate the backlog and will expedite the process, and then things will be done a lot more quicker. It's just the political will has not been there and hasn't been there.
Right. So when you're out there being involved and involving yourself in activism in this case, do you believe that people should migrate here legally if there's a good system in place, or should it just be completely open borders? And whether you're in Canada or Europe or South America, you should just be able to come into the country and become a citizen because you're in the country and decide to stay in the country.
I think that when people mean well, when people are trying to survive, when people are trying to give a better life to their children, when humans are trying to reconnect with family members, when humans and families are trying to get a better education, trying to be better members of society,
right,
it should be a lot easier.
Right. The process, but there should be. My question for you is: do you feel there should be a legal process to migrate here to be a legal U.S. citizen, or should it just be open borders?
Connor, I think again, what I'm saying, like, I know where you're trying to go for here.
But you're not answering that question. So I'm curious on your thoughts on that, because it makes a difference. And
I feel like I am definitely answering the question. And the question, like, I'm answering it with putting a human person behind the question. I think what people a lot of times forget, that we are focused too much on the border situation, on whether it's legal or not legal. Like, we have to think about the people who we're talking about. We're talking about families. We're talking about children. We're talking about, real people out there.
Right.
There's a system. Let's do it. Whatever that is. Like, I just want to make sure that the people who are trying to get here get the things that they need to be able to survive.
Right.
And so if that means systems, then let's go for it. But I just want to make sure that the kids and families and future entrepreneurs who are going to make our country better are here in this country and are not separated or torn apart from their families.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. All the top innovators, entrepreneurs, business leaders, the top ones here in the U.S. are immigrants, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And you mentioned like resources. So what does that mean? What does anybody like your mom need when she's crossing the border with you and your brother? And what resources in your mind, if you could wave a magic wand, should we be providing for refugees and folks that are coming here to build a better life?
So the resources that need to be put in place are definitely the pathways to making sure that people are getting here safely, that people are not detained in cages, that people are not separated away from their families. And so one huge thing already that needs to make sure that I want to make sure that doesn't continue to happen. And so it's not really about the resources on getting here. There are 11 million undocumented people in this country right now.
Right.
So the resources that I'm talking about are the resources that are being given or provided for folks. And it's not necessarily like a handout. I'm saying it's put us in the same level now. We have proven we've been here for 20, 30 years. We've established families here. We continue to provide for the country economically. We continue to thrive here, get educated here. And so let's make sure that everybody's in the same playing level field. And what I mean by that, it's very basic. Like, just knowing that you are not going to be separated from your family, from your daughter, from your son, from your kid, that is a barrier that is lifted away from you. and from your children and from your family that will allow you to be a better, to be able to provide and thrive a lot better than what we're currently getting. And so when I fight and when I advocate for things, it's to make sure that the folks who don't have the resources are in the same playing level field as anyone else. And that's because, for example, for me, I've already been in this country for 23 years. So like I've been in this country for 23 years. I've gone through the entire education system. And now you're saying that when I leave the education system, that all that money that was invested in me to pay for my education from second grade to high school should be thrown away. Like we need to make sure that we continue to develop. And
what do you mean by that? By thrown away?
Well, I went to public education, right? So somebody had to pay for that. Well, we all did, taxpayers, right? That's an investment that the United States knows that they need to be given to children, right? So if children get public education, whether you're documented or undocumented, if you're saying that people should not be in this country, then we are throwing away those 12 years of education that we gave to that person. So why don't we continue to develop that person and make them in the same level playing field so that when they do want to become doctors or lawyers.
Yeah. Well, and slow down for just a sec, because you kind of jumped topics there. What you're talking about is if we were to deport a DACA recipient or someone who's been through the school system, but they're not a documented resident, that would be throwing out the school system that they got, because you went through the school system, right? As an undocumented, and what's a correct term? Undocumented. Yeah, undocumented.
Yeah, undocumented. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So this is just one example. This is just like one of the many reasons why we need to make sure that immigrants and the 11 million immigrants who are in this country are counted and brought in and looped and kind of like looped into the entire narrative that we have in this country. So going back to like when I'm saying that I want to make sure that people are in the same playing level field is for the reason that I reached out to you, which is there are barriers right now that a lot of folks don't see that can prevent a person who has DACA, which is a work permit in this country, to apply for a business license in the state of Colorado. And so that type of barrier is one that I am pushing to eliminate and to ensure that if somebody has an idea, and whoever that is, right? Like when you thought about starting your own podcast and starting your own hustle, it began in your mind, right? And you didn't really think about like the business plan or the business licenses or the loans that you might have to get. Like,
no, I definitely did not.
Right. You didn't think about that. You started then, as you started developing your idea, you started saying, okay, I'm going to need to get a business license. I'm going to need to do all these things. Right. And so what I'm saying is that your idea never died down because of systems. You continue your idea. A DACA person, that means that they have the same idea as you did. And then they're ready to execute. And they say, okay, the first thing I need to do is I need to go get a business license. And they go to the business license office and then they're stopped and say, you know what, actually, you cannot qualify for a business license because of just bureaucracy that's been put in place, because of lack of political will or lack of, of knowing that this system is put in place like that. And so,
and you're speaking specifically about DACA recipients,
correct?
Who cannot, and I'm fascinated in your thoughts on this too. Is should somebody who just crossed the border yesterday, they would be able to come into the state of Colorado, start a business, apply for a business license, and do that from complete scratch as a undocumented immigrant?
Yes, they should.
Got it.
Be able to. Absolutely. Because there is no other way that undocumented person can obtain a job. They have to survive by creating, by providing their services, by making something, by selling something, right? Immigrants by nature have a grit within them. Like if that person was able to travel hundreds of miles, definitely had to learn a business. And I'll tell you, like that analogy is probably not a realistic one. Like a person who just crossed the border is not going to go to the business license and open a business, right? Like that's not how it works. Like a person who crosses the border will start working for maybe many years and then save money to then start their own hustle and start their own business. They might come in and, they might want to start something pretty soon. What I'm trying to say is that we need to eliminate barriers that prevent economic development. Like economic development and entrepreneurship should be allowed for anyone to be able to provide and do. We also want to make sure that people, if they are starting their businesses and starting to sell things, that they're done within the systems that will continue to create taxes that will continue to contribute to the system. And so, yes, I want to make sure that every single person who has an idea and who has a thought can carry through with that thought and idea and essentially become part of our small business community, which thrives and is a backbone of America.
Yeah, because I think one of the big challenges a lot of people have on that is they're starting a business or have a business, but they're not contributing via taxes, right? So you're saying eliminate the barriers, and that completely squashes that problem in itself.
Safety concerns like health and safety, right? That's another thing, health and safety. If we get people to go through the system, then we're able to regulate whatever that industry they're getting into. With food, then we're able to make sure that they have other licenses, that they pass other inspections, that they that they are able to contribute to their taxes. All of that, we're able to systematize and be able to get them into the system. But, right now we don't have that. And other states don't have such barriers. Colorado does have that barrier, but there are other states who don't have that barrier. And
what other states and how long have they not had those barriers? I'm just going to close this door here real quick. Get some background noise going. Go ahead.
I don't know. Like, just to give you an example, I went to
see how commanding that was. Go, just give me the information, man.
Yeah. So, like, I was trying to get a business license in the city of Philly. And I was able to get one, and I was able to get that license online. I wasn't even in Philadelphia. I went to the city of Philly website, looked into how I was going to get a business license. I was trying to figure out the systems, and come to find out, within 30 minutes, I got a business license printed out and ready to go from Colorado. And so, like, it's oftentimes it's how it's interpreted by cities and municipalities and states that can allow a person like myself to be able to contribute to our society through a business.
Now, let's take a small step back, because everyone listening into this might be at different levels of learning about this, right? So I don't think we touch on this very well, but in definition, what is a DACA recipient, and what's the difference between a DACA and a dreamer, or what's the definition of the two?
They're basically the same thing. A dreamer is a person who either qualifies for DACA or who should qualify for DACA. So the DREAM Act was what was introduced, many years ago. And from that, the name Dreamer came about. And so DACA is basically the DREAM Act, which stands for Deferment of Different. I forget what it is.
Come on, man. Come on.
Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. There we go.
Wait, isn't Dreamer an acronym also, I thought? Or that's just a term for a DACA recipient?
That was just the name of the bill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the DREAM Act.
DREAM Act.
The DREAM, yeah. And so that's what's, there's no really difference between that.
Right.
Yeah.
What is this? Are you Googling it right now?
No, I know like I said, the DREAM Act is just the DREAM Act. There was no acronym for it.
Oh, got it. No, but DACA, I was wondering what the...
Yeah, it's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals.
Okay, got it. And this came into place under the Obama presidency, right?
Correct, in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And then what the process is that you have to apply, pay a $495 fee for the application, pass a background check, and go through an extensive application process that takes about anywhere from 6 to 8 months, and then you're given a work permit. You have to then renew that work permit every 2 years. Every 2 years, you have to reapply. You have to go through a background check again every 2 years, and continue to get that. Now, that allows you to work in this country legally, wherever you work. If you just present that, and that's your form of work authorization. And you would think that same type of documentation will allow you to obtain a business license in the city of Denver. However, that was not the case. I had the opportunity to work with a friend who, her name is Lindsay, and works in one of the departments of the city. Somebody approached her with this obstacle, that there was a barrier, and that if they knew why that barrier existed, she then saw how active I was in terms of immigration and entrepreneurship. So she reached out to have a quick meeting, and that's when I came to the realization that even I couldn't apply for a business license despite having a DACA permit once really looking at the requirements. And so, the justification to not give a DACA person a business license comes from a state law, and it's House Bill 1023 that basically requires states and local agencies to verify the lawful presence in the United States of each person 18 years of age or older who applies for public benefit. And a business license under federal law and even Colorado law is considered a public benefit. And so then that means that when the city interprets this law, they have to ask for a proof of affidavit, that lawful presence. And in that lawful presence, you have to provide a form of ID. And there's a whole list of IDs that are acceptable, one of them being this Colorado State ID. If you don't have a Colorado State ID, you can use a military ID, a passport. There's about 10 different IDs that you can use. Now, the ID that is given to DACA recipients is just like yours. However, there is a black bar on top of your picture that says not intended for voting, federal purposes, or public benefits. So when I go to the business license office and I give them my affidavit of verify my lawful presence, they look at the affidavit and then they say, okay, now can I see one of these 10 IDs? The DACA ID, which is Form 1076, I believe, was not part of that list. And so therefore, I couldn't apply. Now, with working with the city and it's specifically with...
and by the way, not to cut you off, but the fact that you can recall this as well as you can is really impressive. Seriously. Yeah,
well, I mean, I lived through this, right? Not only do I live for it, I'm affected personally by it. And it's an issue that affects me. But Connor, like, this has never affected me. Like, I could, people like you and I will always find a way to get things done, right? I could have figured this out through loopholes and figured out. I am speaking up about this, and I brought it to the city's attention because I'm speaking for the person who doesn't have the knowledge on how to navigate through systems like this. And the minute they see a barrier like this, they step back and say, you know what? Never mind. There goes my idea of creating my, marketing agency, or there goes my idea of creating my cleaning service agency. Like, it ends at this step for a lot of people. And so what I was able to do was I was able to connect with the city, and specifically with the Immigrant and Refugee Commission here in the city of Denver, and through the staff and then just city residents, we were able to elevate this issue, bring it to the forefront of people who can make a decision on this, and they were able to add the DACA permit as one of the IDs that they approve. And so, pretty soon here, DACA people will also be able to apply for a business license without having to find a loophole or having to create an LLC to be able to get a business license. And so the next steps here is to allow every single Colorado person who lives here to be able to obtain a business license. And so that means repealing some state bills.
And this will be fully enacted when?
So
enacted? Is that the right word?
Yeah, enacted. Well, enacted would mean that it was a bill and a law passed and it's enacted. This wasn't a law or a bill. This was just a policy change or a policy requirement change that was done, which if you go into the city website right now and look at the affidavit for verifying lawful presence, that is already added. It's not public yet, but by the time that this airs, it will be public and people can go and apply for a business license with a DACA permit. Yeah.
So I'm fascinated to hear what were some of the opposing voices to doing something like this? Like, if you were to play your own devil's advocate against, why haven't we done this 20 years ago? Right. I mean, I grew up in Colorado, and I can name firsthand plenty of students I grew up with who came here as undocumented immigrants and face the same, and they have entrepreneurial minds and tendencies, and not even the entrepreneurial side of things, but the ability to go and get a job wherever they want. But what are the opposing voices on this?
I didn't hear any. We didn't come across any of these opposing voices. But I know why this was put in place. It was put in place because the whole mentality where they're taking our jobs, right? Like that whole mentality of they're taking our jobs kind of a thing. And that's why barriers like this are put in place. And there are a lot of examples that are out there that put us, you and me, in a disadvantage. Like, it puts you in advantage and it sets me back by you doing nothing. Like, you as a person, as Connor, and you put me side by side with you, and we're in the same starting race, right? Like the start race. The gun goes off. Somebody holds me back, and you go forward. And then you go one lap, and then they release me. And then I'm catching up. I'm the whole way and not only am I catching up, they also put hurdles in front of me, try to get through them, right? And so that is, the obstacle that we have, and barriers that have been put in place systematically and generationally that are so hard to shake off. And so this thing that we just eliminated it's been put in place since 2006. And so it just took the right people, it took the right questions, it took the right ears to get it changed. And so I know that we will continue to see strides in this effort because it makes sense to allow a person who has a brilliant idea to be able to create a business. It just makes economic sense. It makes, we don't want to limit how many the accessibility to entrepreneurship and to self dependency and in terms of getting your own cash. We don't want to limit that. I know, I don't know a Republican or a Democrat who wants to say we want to limit the way that small businesses are able to grow or develop. Right. And so I just know if we look at this from the business side of things, like it makes sense to allow everyone who has an idea or a thought or a drive to be able to execute it.
Because the misconception of people thinking, oh, we're going to lose jobs, we're going to lose work to illegal immigrants versus they're actually now going to be able to create more jobs. Absolutely. Yeah.
And generate taxes and income and a better quality of life for everybody.
How many states still haven't adopted this yet? Or still have this older policy in place?
I'm not sure. This is a Colorado specific issue. Some states don't have it. Some states do. Definitely, I know out of this specific similar issue, I believe Alabama and Georgia. We have this policy similar to Alabama and Georgia. I think those are the only ones that have similar policies like this.
Really? So other DACA recipients can go and apply in
they cannot
businesses in other states, not in Alabama, Georgia, and Colorado.
I'm not sure. I haven't dug that deep into that research because I am focused on this state and focused on the people that affect here in my community. I
love that. It's a really good mindset to have. Yeah, we could talk about that for forever. But what's your what keeps you going, man? What's your big picture ambition and fire with everything you're doing? You're a multi-time entrepreneur. You started businesses. What's that?
I like to say I'm a rising entrepreneur because I'm not there yet, man. I'm not even quite there.
Well, no one's ever there at any point in time. I've talked to billionaires and they're even still like, what's my next thing? Successful. I haven't made it yet. I'm not even close to where I'm capable of.
Yeah. Well, what I'm trying to say is that the word entrepreneur is being thrown around it's so accessible. Anyone can just put on their Instagram entrepreneur and
CEO. Yeah.
Right. You're an entrepreneur. I'm trying to, change the narrative to more like in terms of my people and my community, we're just surviving. Right. And some people call that entrepreneurship. Some other people call it hustling. Some other people call it side gig. Some people, what I'm trying to emphasize is on the process of what is going to get you to wherever you want to get. I know that I just love doing my own thing. I thrive and I am not yesterday I was on the computer figuring out cost per profit margins till midnight. And I realized I was oh shit, it's midnight. I have to get up for work at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I should go to bed. But it doesn't ring to me as work. And so I think for me, what keeps me going is just that hustle. Okay, I need to get it. I need to get it. And like you said, I think I'm going to continue to try to getting it for a very long time. So might as well enjoy the process, enjoy what you're doing, because you're going to be chasing it for a while.
So it's more out of, and we kind of talked about this the other day, but for immigrants, it's almost as if where it's, especially for millennials and social media users, is you can easily put entrepreneur, put CEO on your social media profiles. But for immigrants, it's a necessity. So that thing we call hustle and grind, that's just that's just trying to survive. That's just trying to like live. And share a little bit. So matter of fact, a lot of immigrants have to go into entrepreneurship, right? Because they can't just go and get a job somewhere. So talk a little bit more about that.
Yes. So for many people, entrepreneurship is a necessity, right? Like you said. Now, one thing is very important is that because there's a lot of barriers put in place in front of you, and some of those barriers is lack to access to capital, right? The people who are giving these loans or who are investing in these companies do not look like me, right? They're older white men typically, right? Like, can you name me a venture capitalist firm or a venture capitalist or somebody that you know in the banking world that is a person of color? Then give me their fucking information, man, because I need to reach out to them.
Many. They've actually done a recent study on billionaires, and actually the vast majority are people of color or diversity, not just old white men. So when
the wealth, the actual wealth, it remains in one area, right? It remains.
What you're talking about is like old money from. Old money. Yeah. But I'm talking self-made millionaires and billionaires. There's a big majority of self-made millionaires and billionaires that are people of color.
Sure. But we're talking about those people who need to hustle, need to sell something, or need to provide a service to be able to survive, right? And so like that person does not have the access to go into a bank or to be able to try to get a loan or somebody invest in them because they're so small. And so those type of opportunities are just not there for those folks. Other barriers include access to just information, right? Like there are just so many things. And so when a person does make it, and like the reason why those billionaires are immigrants is because they've had to pass so many of those, when we're talking about back to the analogy of the racetrack, like they've had to start further back. They've had to cross hurdles. And so when they do get to the place where like they can scale up, they are much more successful because of all those experiences they've had to go as immigrants. And so when a person, an immigrant is trying to survive, that's all they're doing right now, trying to survive. I'm trying to get those people from trying to survive to be able to scale up and create wealth and be able to pass down that wealth, right? Like right now, I'm not in a place where I would be leaving any wealth behind at this current stage of my life. There's no way, right? Like my little sister will not be able to get any of my wealth the trajectory that I was going. And I know that to be true for a lot of immigrants because all they're doing is they're all just trying to pay rent, try to eat, try to survive. And therefore they're only focused on that. And so it's like, how can we get them to scale up and to really grow their business? That's what I'm trying to do by eliminating some of these barriers, by, bringing them in front of the person who's going to invest in them, the person who's going to be able to give them that information.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and it's so much perspective too. I know generational wealth is definitely a leg up, but I know plenty of people with generational wealth, and I know plenty of folks of color like you who started from the mud, like the barrel of the bottom, and they're exponentially more successful than those who have grown up with generational wealth.
Right. And I think that is that sounds great and it's fantastic and it's true. However,
that's not meant to be combative. That's meant to be inspiring.
Yes, absolutely. But that does there's a lot of those stories, but I know that there are way more stories of people trying to make it, right? And trying to get there who can't because of generational wealth that they don't have because of the barriers that are put in place in front of them. And so I am trying to just navigate through those. And as I'm doing it, because I'm navigating through them myself right now, as I'm doing it, I want to show others right away. Like, hey, I just went through this barrier. Let me see if I can knock it down, or let me see if I can just like stand here so I can give you a lift as you're trying to climb that barrier. So, yeah, I mean, like I want to be one of those stories, but I also want to make sure that my neighbor is one of those stories. I want to make sure that my cousin is one of those stories, that my community is that story. And it is often not played that way. Like, we have to travel out of our communities to be able to develop that wealth or create that wealth. I want to make sure that, like, I want to go back to my community and develop that wealth within that community.
Yeah. What are some information resources that you recommend, whether inspiring or technical information, for those who are trying to pursue the same feats that you are right now?
Yeah. So like, it's simple. It lives in our hands. We're it's in it all around us. Like, we live in a place where when we have a question, we can just Google it wherever you're at. You know, you can be in the restroom and have an idea and boom, Google it. It's just how bad do you want it, right? Because like, I've had conversations with people before. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you're making it. You're doing it." And it's like, sure, it seems like I'm doing it, but like, I put work behind that. I've put research, put hours, put dedication, put my time into it. And so like, it's not just, you just can't change your Instagram to entrepreneur and then everything is going to fall in. No, you actually have to work for it. You have to put in the time. And so when I have the opportunity to talk to people, I've done, high school speeches. I'm about to do a presentation at the end of the month on what I call undocumented. And it's just saying like, hey, here are the resources that I was able to find. Plug in your brand, plug in your idea, and you too can turn that around. And so it's, some basic things. And so like, there are networks out there that will help immigrants develop. So like, I know this organization called Mi Casa Resource Center that helps.
This is local?
This is local, yeah. It's here in Denver. It's called Mi Casa Resource Center, and they provide tons of information for people who are trying to create their own business. Right now, they have a 12-week food program where if you are maybe selling food in a very small level and you're trying to scale up, there's a 12-week program on how to get there. And I am a mentor for that program. I'm in the food truck track. So if anyone who's like maybe doing catering and they want to transition into food truck, there's a 12-week program for that. And there's mentorship for it as well. So like, I want to be accessible for folks as well. Like, I always put it on all my social medias. Like, if you have a question and I can be a resource for that, I'm down to be that person.
What do you feel are some of the other mentor genres that are needed in those resource centers?
I think it's a lot of it is done like, it's everything. A lot is touched like not theory based, but like classroom based, which works for some people. I think I think that Mi Casa Resource Center did this very correctly, which is providing mentorship and opportunities for people to see firsthand on how this is.
Rather than like just stuck in a classroom.
Right. Like firsthand, like if you're thinking of starting a food truck business, why don't you get a job for 3 months in a food truck? Like, right. So that's the type of commitment that it will take to be able to succeed. Like, for example, for me, my poke truck, I had no idea. I love poke. I never thought I was going to own a poke truck, right? I knew how to eat it. I know how to order it. How to make it, right? So like, I took the initiative to travel to Hawaii, meet with a fish distributor there, figure out how their sustainability systems are, but also I asked a shitload of questions. I was there with a notepad and my fucking phone recording everything. Like, okay, what kind of fish is this? Like, what grade is this? What determines a grade? Like, what kind of knives do you use? Like, all these type of questions that can be, that necessarily can be taught. But if you see them and you experience them, then some people might replicate them. And
how does your food truck work? Do you partner up with a local bar or location? You'll park outside for the day. Like, how does that business actually work? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah,
because I love to eat. I love to eat poke too. I'm not going to start poke food trucks. There's one business I promise I never get myself into, even though I'm so passionate about it, is the food industry. And big ups to you, not only overcoming these hurdles, but of all the effing businesses you could have started, food trucks is a tough space. Food in general is a tough business.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. But that is, a place where I'm comfortable, right? Prior to being a political director, I was a deputy food service director for a water park in Irvine, California. And I worked there for 8 years, and I was in the food service department. And, you think about a water park, how much hamburgers and how many French fries come out of that place. And it's just, a lot. So like, yeah, in that space. So that's why I went in that route. But the way that trucks operate here is various ways. You can, get a gig and go to an office building. You can partner up with a brewery and you're that food truck that's out there in the brewery. You can do meter parking and find a pop-in location and park there, or partner up with a food truck park that has multiple food trucks within the facility. And so the ones that we have is we are inside Finn's Manor, which is a food truck hub. That we're there permanently, routinely. And in the days that we're not scheduled to be there, we take our truck and we go and we partner up with other breweries, just to get a little bit more exposure outside of our facility that we're in right now. But then catering is a big one too. Like we can deliver an experience of, our food truck is a 1978 VW bus. So it's
that was an intentional purchase, or that's what you could afford at the time?
It's an intentional. Yeah. Like that aloha vibe for sure. It brings you that, it brings you those, you look at that truck and you're like, okay, where's the beach?
So you resonate with the Hawaiian culture and food, and that's kind of like how'd you come across having a passion for that genre?
Yeah. So it was just opportunity that came up. So my business partner, Willie, who was a food truck operator, he worked at a food truck and was then offered, just asked, hey, do you know anyone who might be interested in purchasing our food truck because we're going to close? That this was the people who we bought the food truck. So I bought this truck already from an existing owner. And so it was the opportunity that came about. It was the right time. It was the right budget. And we just took over the business. But with just my level of intensity and the way I devote my time and my efforts to any business, I've took the initiative to just find out and do as much research as I can on poke, even as far as traveling to with my fish distributor, getting in the boat and seeing the fish firsthand, how it's taken out of the boat and how it's processed completely from boat to food truck.
Is poke is a Hawaiian-based founded dish?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Poke just means sliced fish or cubed fish.
Yeah.
And that's all it's
sushi cubes. It's sushi cube.
Cubed fish, yeah.
Is it all, do you do all raw fish?
So we have raw fish, which is our main dish, poke. But when we also incorporated a few other non-fish dishes, just so we can expand our market. And so we have a dish that we call Aloha Chicken that is has a sweet soy sauce marinade that comes with grilled pineapple, with scallions, sesame seeds, and beautiful cooked rice, and then in a bowl.
Just your description is making me so hungry right now.
Dude, I'm hungry too. I haven't ate.
We'll wrap this thing up here shortly. What should people come order from you when they if anyone's hearing this, they want to come order
the shoyu poke? I that is like my favorite dish.
The shoyu
poke, yeah. So it basically is a ahi, and the tuna that we get is the freshest you will get outside of Hawaii. And let me tell you why. Like, first of all, we're in a landlocked state, man. Like, gonna get any fish around here?
I don't know. That's the problem.
That's some fish like that, right? But we were able to identify a fish company from Hawaii and from Oahu. They are the Hawaiian Fresh Seafood Company. And the moment that fish unloads the dock, I get a text message from my rep and says, "Hey, man, I got a 2 grade tuna right now. How many pounds do you want?" And he's texting me at his time, 4:30 in the morning, my time, 7:30. And I'm, give me 25 pounds for this week. They gets to the processing center. They skin off, because I don't like to cut the skin. It takes too much time. So they skin it for me. They take the bloodline off, and they just send me the loin, a 25-pound loin the next day. It's in the food truck the next day. So you're getting really, really fresh fish. So just that alone is an experience to be able to try and understand the difference in quality of fish is something that I didn't have a palate for before. But it's like I used to eat my steaks well done, right? And that was a mistake.
How uncultured of you, sir.
That was a mistake I was doing, right? And now it's give me a meat, a rare steak, right? And so poke to fish, there's grades of fish, and you're able to actually taste the difference.
Really? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
What's your favorite, if you had a favorite other, besides yours, of course, what's another favorite restaurant of yours here in Denver?
Tacos are my to-go, man. If I was to choose the opportunity that came about, I wouldn't have chosen poke. Poke me. I would have chosen fucking tacos. Yes, and specifically food truck tacos. There's this one spot on, it's called Taqueria Jalisco. So it's like Carniceria Jalisco. It's a meat, like a meat place, like a meat market. And outside of the meat market, they have a food truck. It's owned by the same people. It is on, I always forget the address of it. Let me see.
Can you please change your Instagram bio? I didn't choose Poke Life. Poke Life chose me.
Yes, that's a good one. Yeah, but the tacos, man. I love tacos.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with tacos. Have you been up to I'm totally blanking it, but it's the only place it's right up the street from here. I'm going to remember as soon as we hang up the line here, but they're the only place I know of that serves lamb neck tacos. Oh, yeah.
Know what that means.
Exactly what it sounds like. It's lamb neck. Yeah. Have you ever had lamb neck?
I mean, I try. I eat tongue. I eat brain. I eat intestines in my tacos. So
I just had yak last night.
lamb neck is not. It doesn't faze me. So the place that I'm talking about, this place that you got to check out, and I'm telling you, it's going to be your favorite taco spot. It's on it's 3300 North Downing Street.
What's it called?
Food truck.
Oh, it's a food. It's okay. So it's over in that circle.
It's a market. It's a meat market. It's a little Mexican market, and meat market. And outside of it, they have their food truck. So it's the entire establishment.
Okay, good. I got exactly from you what I needed for this podcast.
There you go.
Food was a taco spot. And if you get a chance, lamb necks. You can get them at Whole Foods downtown here, and put them in the crock pot. It's the most tender. Do you like lamb?
Yeah, I like lamb.
Yeah. I grew up with, half my family is Jewish. So a lot of lamb in tons of our dishes. So something I grew up with. But for people who didn't grow up with it or aren't accustomed to it, it is a different thing. So, yeah, man. Hey, so as we're wrapping this thing up, any, last minute thoughts, anything you want to share? The floor is yours.
Yes. I think there's my thought for people who are supportive of immigration changes and are supportive of immigrants being able to thrive in this country. I want to say that looking into the barriers that sometimes are put in place, whether we know it or not, is an important thing to understand. Because if we want to be friendly to our neighbors, we want to be friendly to our people who are doing the same hustle and doing the same grind as us, we need to be inclusive of everyone who is trying to be part of that mix. And just, have an open heart and an open ears to really hear the struggles and the obstacles that we overcome. Because I'll tell you this, like if you partner up with an immigrant, and somebody who is trying to start up a business, I know that they are going to have so much more drive just because of the things that they had to go through. And now a message for like my undocumented people who might be listening to this is that this is a perfect opportunity. Never before have we had such an opportunity to become entrepreneurs and to be able to develop our own wealth than today. Accessibility to be able to create a online store or start your own, whatever you want to do is so much accessible that we can do it. It's just a matter of putting that time, putting those efforts, and just not taking no for an answer sometimes and just fucking doing it.
I love it, man. How can people get in contact with you or, get involved with your mission?
Yeah. So my Instagram handle is at Senator Flores. Senator Flores. Are you going to
be a senator someday?
I wanted to secure that, man. I didn't want some other Flores.
Are you going to run for president?
I'm not going to run for president. However, I will run for municipal office one day when I have the opportunity to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to establish myself as a successful entrepreneur so that I can have the wealth to be able to run for office, because running for office is not cheap, right? Like you have to put in, you have to be sometimes established. And so, 10 years from now, maybe you'll see me on the ballot.
Awesome, man. Really appreciate you. So Instagram, give a shout. Alejandro, I really appreciate you coming on. We'll have to do this again, sometime in the future, see what kind of updates we have. And some of the stuff will be rolling out here very soon in Colorado. And so make sure you give this man a reach. Guys that are listening, appreciate you. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Really helps with our rankings before you leave today. And I'll see you on the other side.